ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. We are still on verse 66, I think. सर्वे नन्दति जीवाः अधिगतयशसा गृह्णता चक्षुरादीन् अन्तः सर्वोपकर्त्रा बहिरपि च सुषुप्तौ यथा तुल्यसंस्थाः एतेषां किल्बिषस्पृग्जठरभृतिकृते यो बहिर्वृत्तिरास्ते त्वक्चक्षुश्रोत्रनासरसन वशमितः याति शोकञ्च मोहम्. Very involved verse, just like all the verses of Satasloki, and which are also a mouthful each time. So some of it we have seen. All the beings, this is a very useful analysis of the sleep state. So Shupti is important because it's the closest we get to understanding Atmananda. Of course, the challenge is to understand Sushupti when we are awake, in retrospect, in hindsight. That is the challenge, of course. So, but there is some kind of a remembered Ananda in hindsight, which makes it easier to it's a kind of a recalled Ananda. And it is because it is the Ananda that arises from the sense organs and the master of the sense organs, which is the Ahankara. In the complaining Ahankara is at rest, and the sense organs are at rest, and everything is at rest, and so then the Purusha, the person, sleeping person, is at his or her best when the complaints are at rest. And so that is the idea here, because the sleep state shows very, very closely how it is very close to Atmananda, and Atmananda is not something that can be what's that? It can be talked about, it can be communicated, but then even though it is communicated, people want to experience the Ananda, people want to experience Brahman, and so the best way to experience Brahman, go to sleep promptly. That is what the idea is here. And so the analysis of the sleep state yields a lot of clues about not so much the nature of the Atma, because that is what is being taught, but about the what one sees as an inextricable connections between the Indriyas and the Indriya Vishayas. Indriyas means what? Sense organs, and then Vishayas means objects. The objects and the sense organs are always so intricately connected during the waking state. So in a way during the dream state too. So it is at best difficult, very, very difficult to see them as not, to see this connection as not something intrinsic to the I. That's the first thing that it accomplishes. The analysis of the sleep state accomplishes this. That the contact with the sense organs and the sense objects, even though it may seem automatic in the waking state, is not something intrinsic to the I. Because in the waking state, we are accustomed to the sensory, what is in modern parlance called sensory overload. You see so many things. You just open your eyes and you see many things. And then what? Then, as though that is not enough, now there are all these devices which take you to what is called the internet. And the emphasis is on the word net, which means jalam. It's a it's a net. It traps. And so it seems like a freedom producing place where you can just have a small device in the hand and then just get lost in this internet, in the world of the what is called WWW, World Wide Web. See, all these names also seem like, okay, I'm going into this net, which is of course a web. It says that right there. and so and then this entry into this World Wide Web makes one lose track of time, makes one lose oneself, and gives, buttresses the pervasive illusion, the delusion that that I am always identified with the sense objects, which are in turn identified with the sense organs. So this analysis, this detailed analysis in the last couple of verses we have been having, and it will continue, of the sleep state, is to cut that delusion, to cut that mithya connection which one takes as satyam, that connection between the sense organs and the sense objects is not something that is always there. Number one. Number two, and it's the logical corollary of number one, it's also not true that the contact of the sense organs with the sense objects is the way to quote unquote produce happiness. The key or the ticket to happiness is not trying to line up the correct sense organs with the correct objects. Of course, nobody wants to see some horrible sight. So, you want to see pleasant sights. Like children playing in the garden, flowers blooming, sun setting or rising. Very, very pleasant things. So, if you can line up the drishya varga, the group of all the things that are to be seen with the eyes, then you will always be happy because you will never encounter anything that is sad. Really? How did that work out for Prince Gautama, later on known as the Buddha? That's exactly what the parents tried to do, the king and the queen. Because at birth, the royal astrologer said, either he'll be a great, great ruler, make a mark, or he will be a great renunciant, a sannyasi. Oh, no. Well, what's wrong with being a sannyasi? Well, it's fine if the neighborhood boy is a sannyasi, but not my son. Yeah. Even though the word sannyasi, the beginning is the word son. Son is there. Okay, so any other son can be a sannyasi, but my son cannot do any kind of renouncing, especially this royal baby. He has to follow my lineage. He has to become the king. And so the boy led an artificial life. And they just brought everything pleasant to the palace. He was not allowed to leave. He was, and even if he left, to go on a tour, it was all just very nicely choreographed and arranged, so that his little trips to town were just very nicely. He saw all smiling, dancing, singing people, and happy animals and everything. And then what? Then this the moment. He one day he escaped along with a minister who aided his escapade as a young man. He got married also, had a child also, and then he escaped and then understood that this is not, first of all, this is not the life. Whatever he has been fed has been, he has been living in a bubble of lies. He's been living in a bubble and he's been fed with all kinds of lies. He saw a person in pain with some terrible disease crying out. He saw a person without food, hungry, emaciated, and then he saw a person who was sick. And then finally he sees a dead body being taken across the city to the cremation ground. And all that made him understand one very important thing that this mantra, this verse is trying to communicate. That you cannot, the happiness is not as a result of aligning the sense objects, the favorable sense objects, with the sense organs, and then happiness is produced. First of all, it's impossible to do. That is why people have gone mad trying to be happy with the help of the sense objects and the sense organs. And people continue to go mad because this is just an impossibility. Many a slip between the sense organs and the sense objects. That is what it is. You can never align it so that you will always be happy. And besides, if this kind of an alignment would work to keep somebody happy, why did the Prince Gautama, Siddhartha, whatever, why did Prince Siddhartha want to go out of the palace? Why did he want to escape? All the happy things around him was just should have been enough to keep him happy. No, but he had a disgust. He was just, he knew that there is something terribly wrong, not with the sights and sounds that he was being fed, but also with himself. So the sorrow is not centered on the objects, the sorrow is not centered on the sense organs. The sorrow is centered where exactly the place where the I is cognized on the centered on the ahankara. Wherever the I notion is cognized, there itself the sorrow sits. But that doesn't mean the sorrow is intrinsic to the I. That is not the claim of this verse or of the vision of Vedanta. Oh, so the sorrow is extrinsic to the I? That also is not the claim. Because if sorrow is extrinsic means outside. If the sorrow is outside the I, then we will be forever inside our homes or inside somewhere, locked up. Already we are doing that for 2 years. Sorrow will be like COVID. You're afraid to go catch it. You're in the air, it is there, and you can catch it. And you have to mask, and you have to take vaccines, and you have to get yourself inoculated against this sorrow. How is that possible? Not possible. Not possible. So therefore, sorrow is not extrinsic, and neither you can say it is intrinsic. Why? Because it is not a thing for it to have a location. It's easier to say that the pot is on the table and then be right about that than to say that sorrow is inside the heart, in the antahkarana, or outside the heart. Who is to decide what is inside, what is outside, first of all? So the sorrow is, if you say the sorrow is outside, you're falling into a big pit. It's as bad as saying the sorrow is intrinsic to the self. If the sorrow is intrinsic to the self, then, just try going to sleep, and then you will find that even the saddest person is happy in sleep. So that shows that this sorrow is not intrinsic to the self. If it were intrinsic to the self, the whole time you were sleeping, you should have been shedding tears and waking up with a drenched pillow. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. And so therefore what? So therefore, the sorrow cannot be said to be intrinsic to the I. Okay, let's say it's extrinsic to the I. That is also a statement that requires to be corrected. It is extrinsic means where is it? Is there a place where sorrow resides? So that I can avoid visiting that. So there is no place where sorrow resides, and it's marked there, do not enter, sorrow resides, home of sorrow. No such thing. Neither is there a time during the day where it is considered sorrow time. No. Although we have the other side of it. What is that? Happy hour is definitely there in terms of time. Happy hour only for the bartender, not for the people going there, okay? Happy hour for the bartender because the bar is making lot of money and he or she is getting lot of tips. Not for anybody else, happy hour. In fact, all the sad people are going there. And even these concepts of sorrow, happiness, etc., they are not having a location. In other words, they cannot be objectified because they are intangible. They are intangible first of all, and then the sorrow is something that is recognized through a particular association. So there is an association of oneself with sorrow. This is what the Bhagavad Gita says. Tam vidyat, 6th chapter, tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitam. A very wonderful and a gymnastic definition of the word yoga. Why do you say gymnastic? Because it is doing a wonderful acrobatics. Tam vidyat. Please know that. May you know that. What is that? What should I know? Yoga samgitam. Know that to be called as yoga. So what is called as yoga? Dukkha samyoga viyogaha. Dukkha samyoga viyogaha is equal to yoga. What is this dukkha samyoga? Dukkha samyoga means association with sorrow. And then viyoga means dissociation. So, know that to be a practice, a sadhana here, a cognitive sadhana. What is the cognitive sadhana? What is the yoga here? The yoga here is to consciously practice dissociation from association with sorrow. Very fantastic. So that shows that there is some kind of a voluntary nature of this sorrow. One has to make a few decisions. One has to get to that certain place. And conscious dissociation, because the association with sorrow happens when the raga dveshas are stirred up, when they don't get what they want, and when the sense objects do not oblige. But it's not just the sense objects. We think it is the sense objects. Because even if one is surrounded by happy things, one can still be sad. Even if one is surrounded by unhappy things, one can still smile. So supposedly unhappy things and happy things, one can still smile. And so therefore, the sorrow is centered wherever the I notion is there. And so the identification with sorrow, the conscious disidentification from association with sorrow, which happens as a result of the raga dveshas being unfulfilled, which happens as a result of this not knowing the I, Atma Ajnanam, is to be corrected. This is a wonderful cognitive sadhana. But what do I need to do it? You need a bag full of full stops. Oh, bag full of full stops? Yeah. Where am I going to put it? All over the place. After every thought. So what is the first thought? The first thought is, I don't know, this practice seems dubious. Full stop. Right there. Do not continue with this thought. Otherwise, peril will ensue. I don't know about this practice. Isse kya hoga? Nothing will happen. Full stop. So when you put a full stop, what happens? Well, if you're effective at if you do it correctly, then the full stop interrupts the flow of thoughts at the very best. First thing it does is interrupts the flow of thought. Second thing the full stop does is give you time. It gives you time. So what kind of time does it give you? It gives you time to recover and regain a semblance of objectivity. It gives you a little inner space to see that whatever you thought, for example, let's just continue with this example, whatever you thought, oh, this practice is dubious, nothing will happen. So that thought is just that, it's a thought. It could be true, but then I could give the practice a benefit of doubt and then, entertain the thought, it need not be true. This is just a thought. So then that, that full stop gives rise to the buddhi, the deeper recesses and the more, objective recesses of the mind in the form of the intellect coming to help. How does it come to help? It says, well, you do tend to be a little hopeless sometimes. The buddhi helpfully points out that, well, there are certain areas you just tend to be kind of like a downer. Oh, so maybe this is one of the situations. Again, similar, as soon as you have this other thought, which is very helpful, put a full stop there immediately. Otherwise what? Oh, I'm just hopeless, nothing happens, even though I try and I have these issues and these are core issues. Core issues means they will never go. See where the whole thing has dragged somewhere. This is what is called the penchant for the association with your sorrow. You can think yourself to be sad. You can, and therefore the bag full of full stops. The full stop is a trick. Really, it's a wonderful trick. You put a full stop and then, take a few deep breaths. It does the wonders. Breathing does wonders, because when one is sad, one almost forgets to breathe or breathes in a shallow way. Take some deep breaths. Why does the breathing do wonders? Because there is oxygen involved, and when oxygen floods the brain, it tends to think properly. That's why. Just breathe, and even then, if there is the tendency to go towards the sorrow, always, if the breathing has not helped, get up, jump up and down, take a walk, change the channel, change the activity, and then come back. So the full stop is the way to accomplish what Lord Krishna tells Arjuna. Yoga is a dissociation from, a conscious dissociation from association with sorrow. So if yoga is dissociation from association with sorrow, then association with sorrow is not yoga. It will take you to it. It will not be helpful at all for you. And so therefore, this is what is being accomplished. This association with the sense organs, of the sense organs with the sense objects, and then the mind and ahankara swooping in to say, okay, this is my prey. This is all for me. And so that connections are being snapped by this verse. And so therefore what? So the sleep state is described as the great leveler. Sarve jivaha tulya samsthaha. Samstha means pratishtha. Whose pratishtha, whose source is one and the same. They are called tulya samsthaha. And tulya samstha yesham te. And so for them, for whom all this is one and the same, what? The sleep experience. How is it one and the same? Because sarve nandanti. One and the same, that Samanya is there because they are all one. They are all having the same experience of happiness. And we talked about this last time. The king sleeping on a memory foam mattress, the rich person, king, etc., and some kind of a bed which has a button on it, which makes the mattress soft. There is such a thing, okay, in America. And then you press the button and it makes the mattress hard. Some kind of a bed is there. And so those kinds, so let's say a rich person, what is that called, number bed, some kind of a sleep number bed, and then you sleep on this number bed, and then it supposedly does a number on you and puts you in a deep sleep. So even without that, control, the ability to control the softness and the hardness of the mattress, the fellow sleeping on the park bench, the person without a house, is the envy of all rich people, because not a care in the world. There may be some shopping cart nearby, but then if that is stolen, no problem, nothing. And because those things in the shopping cart can be collected in 2 hours, some bottles and some things which you can sell and make some money. Bottles and boxes, whatever it is, small possessions, that's all it is. So that person is snoring on the park bench, and then finally this rich person, because of the delusion of this sophisticated bed, is finally going to sleep. Still, it's all the same, because the happiness of the person on the park bench and the happiness of the sleeping corporate magnate is one and the same happiness. Because it is not their happiness in the form of the jivas that they are, which during the waking state they can recall, they can count, one can have a one-upmanship and say, I'm happier than you. But in sleep, it is not their happiness. Even though they experience it, it is what? It is the happiness of them being virtually not there. So the jiva is one with Paramatma, so to speak, in sleep. So, in waking I am not one with Paramatma, you are one with Paramatma in waking, sleep and dream. Then why only sleep is highlighted? Because there is too much of you in the waking state, that's all. Too many complaints, and Paramatma just retreats and takes a nap, because Paramatma doesn't want to argue with you. You have cast a web of your own alternative, subjective, parallel reality. And Paramatma refuses to be trapped in that, and so leaves you to figure it out. And then when you feel the entrapment, hey Bhagavan, you cry out, and Paramatma says, I'm right here. Put a full stop. Come out of this web, and seek the teachings. That's what it is. So therefore, in the waking state, also the oneness is there. The oneness doesn't go anywhere. Even in the manifest state of this Jagat, with so many jivas and so many things, inanimate things also in the Jagat, it is still one with Atma, Paramatma. It is still one with Bhagavan. But as the knower, Pramata, as the thinker, Manta, as the karta, as the actor, as the bhokta, the consumer, the experiencer, I am wedded. The individual I is wedded to all these states. Identifies itself with the actions, with the actor, with the result of actions. Seer, knower, thinker, all this, and mistakes itself to only be that, and that's why the vista point, the vantage point is denied to the waker, because there is too much of the waker present in the form of all these statuses. Whereas in sleep, it is tulya samstha. Everybody is one, and then therefore, since the complaining jiva is not present during sleep, then what? nandanti sarve. All of them are happy. How are they happy? Two things are taking place in sleep, because of which they are happy. One is sarvo. One is this adhigata yashasa. So yashas here is the name of Bhagavan, and there is I think it's a Brihadaranyaka mantra, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just look at it quickly. There is a little Vedic statement that talks about Bhagavan in the form of this yashas. Let me look for this. It is here in the Bhashya somewhere. Not Bhashya, what is that? It is here in the Anandagiri's Tika, somewhere here. Dukkha bhagi bhavati yasmat karanat atmarthya vajinaya indriya viryaya. No, it was a little bit earlier than that. Paramanandam prapnuvanti yatha पशु पक्षी प्रभृतयः सर्वे जीवाः सुषुप्ति समये परमसुखिनो भवन्ति सुखाय. Somewhere it is adhigataya, somewhere it is, and what it says is very interesting. I can't lay my finger on it, I can't lay my eyes on it just now, but then there is a statement in the Rig Veda, I can look it up next time, which says that the Paramatma is called Yashas because everything that has a pratima means a form, and then everything that doesn't have a pratima is all this Atma alone, and so that is why it is called Yashas, because it's well known as having form and having no form. Somewhere it will come in this Tika. It is there. I read it earlier. So then so that is basically why it is Adhigata Yashasa. So Adhigata means having Paramatmanam Prapya. So having gained this Bhagavan. And who is this Bhagavan? Sarvopakartra. This Bhagavan is, having been, having become one with Bhagavan, who is Sarvopakarta. Sarvopakarta means this is the one who is in charge of all the sense organs. The Bhagavan in the form of the presiding deities of all the sense organs. Who is in charge of connecting them with their sense objects? Who is in charge of blessing the eyes to see, the ears to hear, etc., etc. But in sleep, what happens? Grindhata means at the time of sleep, due to these chakshu, etc., being pulled back. This is also again from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There is a verse, mantra that says Grihita Vak. In sleep, what happens is described. I think it's the Ajata Shatru conversation with the Ajata Shatru dialogue and some other sage, I forget. And so there it says Grihita Vak, Grihitam Chakshuhu, and then Grihitam Shrotram, Grihitam Manaha. Grihitam means withdrawn. Last time we saw how like the limbs of the turtle are withdrawn. Similarly, from the sense objects, the Vak is Grihita. Speech no longer is there to describe what is seen, what is heard. Then Chakshu is Grihitam. The Chakshu, the eyes do not see anymore. Even if sometimes people sleep with their eyes open, they don't see anything at all. Then Shrotram Grihitam, Grihitam Manaha. So the mind is withdrawn, ears are withdrawn, all the sense organs and the mind, etc. are withdrawn. And then what happens as a result of that? There is this, when the sense organs are withdrawing unto themselves, they're not doing that on their own. There is some force which is able to do it. This is not under one's control. And so, antaha sarve upakartra, the one who facilitates the operation of all the sense organs for all the beings, whether one is relating to things outside of oneself or whether one is relating to things within the body mind sense complex, whether the activity is mental or internal or external. And so this Bhagavan, this Brahman, this Atma is Sarvopakarta. And by this, when the sense organ are withdrawn, then you are blessed to rest. You just rest. And that's why Paramatma is called Yashas, who is very famous. And in sleep, what happens? With this Paramatma, one has Tadatmyam identification. Tadatmyam apannaha jivaha. So one is one with this Paramatma. And this is common for all the jivas, not just human beings. And the Pashu sleeps, the Pakshi sleeps, the bird sleeps, and the bird sleeps in the tree, and some other, all these iguanas and everything, hanging out on the trees, they sleep, everyone sleeps. And so it's all the same for all the jivas. And then, then there is one word here which we have to look at. Last time also we looked at that. There is one word, yatha, somewhere. So, chakshuradin antas sarvopakartra bahirapicha sushuptav yatha. So, this yatha is very interesting. So, I explained it last time. We saw this word yatha as some kind of a viparita drishtanta. Its yatha should actually be read as ayatha. So unlike what is going to come next in the other two lines. Unlike that, this one is very, this nandanam, this happiness that takes place is unlike in the waking state where people try to get into a frenzied set of activities. It's going to say that later on. But that's one explanation. But looking at this yatha, because there is no tatha that follows, we can have one more explanation, is that this yatha is a, yatha atmanandaha. So just like we have to supply that, of course. So this yatha tulya samstha, and that tulya samstha is what? It's an expression of atmananda. So for the person who is awake and who is a jnani, who is awakened to this knowledge of oneself as Paramananda, who enjoys the same Ananda as all these beings enjoy in the sleep state, even while awake. That could be another way to explain the presence of this yatha. And then the other scenario is given. Etesham, and we have to supply madhye. In among all this, what is etesham madhye, what happens in the middle of all this, in this scenario, some people were, he says, kil bishasprik jathara bhriti krite yo bahir vrittihi aste. So etesham, so among these people, there are some who are what? Who are described as kil bishasprik. Kilbisham sprishanti iti kilbishasprik. Sprishati iti kilbishasprik. So, kilbisha is dukkha, sorrow, conflict, strife. Sprishati is touches. So, the one who is kilbishasprik means sorrow toucher. This is exactly what we are talking about. The one who keeps on experiencing sorrow. And there is some, you can touch something or not touch something. So that means there is something voluntary here possible. So who is this toucher of sorrow? Jathara bhriti krite. Jathara is tummy. So this tummy, Jathara bhriti krite means for the sake of filling the tummy. So the tummy filler. Who is this tummy filler? Is that a foodie? No, not necessarily we are talking about a foodie. We are talking about someone who is interested in just the act of in the day-to-day act of filling up the sense objects and the sense with the sense organs, or the other way around, filling up the sense organs with the appropriate sense objects. The one for whom there is a lot of insecurity, for whom there is a lot of insecurity, the one who is not able to be, the one who doesn't have any kind of shanti. And so therefore what is restless, is afraid, is not, is very worried. How will I do this? How will I, do this? How will I get by? And what about my dinner? What about my lunch? And this lunch, dinner, etc. is a what's its name? Is a upalakshana for any kind of wanting to hold, wanting to fill up something. So that is, so because everything starts with the stomach. And so that's why such people are called Jatarambharaha. So they are just wanting to fill up the stomach. And the stomach is is just a metaphor for a certain emptiness that one feels. In Vietnam, they have a concept of this, what is that called? Hungry ghost. In Buddhism, this is talked about a lot. Hungry ghost. Who is the hungry ghost? It is some, they also have some kind of a, some Pitru Paksha, the ancestral festival, etc. I don't know if it coincides with the Hindu almanac. That will be interesting to see. But then, there, what do? They feed all these ancestors who were hungry ghosts. That is the idea. And who are these hungry ghosts? There is a picture depicted of the hungry ghost with a long neck, which is a thin neck, a needle-throated being with a huge stomach. So how to fill up this person? Because the person has to practically be in a liquid diet, because they are unable to swallow anything. They are not able to, you cannot help them, very difficult to help them. Why? Because there could be all kinds of food in the world. You can give them victuals of all kinds of wonderful things. And they look at it, and they are sitting at a full table. They have been rightfully seated. They don't need to be beg for scraps. It all belongs to them. Yet they are shedding tears in their plate, unable to take in. This is all metaphoric. It's not that there is really a being with a needle throat and a big stomach. The big stomach emphasizes the set of needs and wants, unfulfilled needs and wants, and the emptiness. And the small throat depicts suspicion and the inability to receive what is given, and the inability to understand what is given, the inability to not feel grateful for what one has. There is no gratitude, because the sense of entitlement, very interesting, enlightenment, entitlement. So they are not synonyms, okay? Yeah, so the sense of entitlement is so pervasive that it doesn't even stop to think that in all this, okay, this is mine, I have right, and my rights have been violated. This is all just some kind of a subjective understanding. And so in this entitlement, they forget to acknowledge what they have. They forget that there is so many things that have already been given. Plus, when we start to look at the depth of all the things that we have been given, there is just so much. There is nothing other than awe and a prayerful attitude. That is what in modern parlance is called gratitude. It's not, in the Hindu tradition, you don't have to give thanks. We don't say thank you, Ishvara. We don't have that custom. Why? Because the whole attitude is that of kritagnyata. Kritagnyata means kritam janati. Iti kritagnya, the one who knows what has already been given. What has been done, what has been given, that I'm not, I'm not helpless. There is so much help. Oh, but I have only one meal. You have one meal, that's great. Who knows what will happen in the time for the next meal? Enjoy this meal now. Be here now. And that is what the sad, hungry ghosts cannot do. And then you see, in trying to propitiate these hungry ghosts yearly, what is the deeper meaning is that it's not just ancestors or mains that might have been hungry ghosts. There are, according to this particular verse, and according to the teachings, there are hungry ghosts even now. We can recognize, if we look deeply, aspects of the hungry ghosts within oneself. We can recognize and see where this frantic filling is taking place, frantic attempts to fill, but at the same time no success, because that is the wrong sadhana. For the one who is already full, what kind of filling is needed? And if we are talking of the empirical level, there, maybe, gratitude and other things can help to understand that this is a useless exercise. And so therefore what? So etesham madhye kilbishasprik, the people who have a penchant for sorrow, jathara bhriti krite, for the sake of filling up the stomach, what happens? They are always focused on what is this one doing, what is that one doing, what can I get from this one, how will this one help me? I want, I need. And such people, sometimes what happens, they repel even people who could be helpful. Because if you look at another person with so much need, then that person runs away naturally. That person looks at you once and then will feel like running away. And this is again a kind of a repelling that is happening, because one is unable to be present, one is unable to just enjoy whatever there is to enjoy. And so therefore, bahihi, bahirvrittihi, so they all become outwardly focused, aste. And then they are all, they have become outwardly focused. And then how? Then tvak, because all the sense organs are involved. Tvak, the sense of touch, chakshuhu, sight, and then shrotra, hearing, nasa, rasana, and then olfactory nerves, and then rasana, tongue, taste. And then vashamitaha. Vashamitaha means they have become enslaved by the sense organs. You think you are operating the sense organs in order to enjoy the sensory objects, but then that is just in the beginning. The sense organs are very trained in the martial art, judo, because they flip you around. You say, oh, I'm going to shake your hand and I'm going to enjoy you and I'm going to use you to enjoy whatever. Yeah, come. And then, and the sense organ also does the proverbial bow before the flip. The two people are bowing to each other. It's wonderful to see this. And then slowly they approach, and you don't even know what's happened until you see it many times in slow motion. It's very difficult to understand what just happened. And this fellow that was wry and small, the teacher usually, and then the student is nicely fed and has worked out and is very big, quite big. Suddenly, oh hello, namaste, namaste, and then some mantra is chanted, and then before you know, the fellow is on the ground. The big fellow is on the ground, kind of just coming to and blinking. How did this happen? What happened? And so the small, innocuous looking sense organs which say, utilize me in order to enjoy, have fun with me, let me show you all the things that I can show you, let me take you, open the vista of all the objects of enjoyment and delight, use me. And then before you know, you become the slave. And then they are using you. Vashamitaha means under the spell. And like just like that, there is a story told of the camel and Muhammad. So Muhammad is going in the in the desert from one place to one village to another, and Muhammad is on the camel and carrying a tent. So when the night comes and it's hard to travel, he pitches the tent, and then the desert nights are very very cold. And then what? Then he's the camel outside tied to the tent post, and Muhammad inside. Then what happens? Camel says, "It's so cold." After 2 hours, Muhammad is woken up. "It's so cold, master. Can I just put my nose inside?" "All right, all right." "It's so cold, master. Can I just put my 2 toes inside?" First it was the nose, then it was the toes. And then morning dawns, and Muhammad is outside, camel inside the tent happily, warmly asleep under the covers, and Muhammad is having hypothermia. Okay, yeah, so this is has to be rescued. and so this is the state of the sense organs that one is gifted with. One is gifted with these sense organs, and then beware if we don't use them correctly, because they will use you. They will do a number on you. They will do a judo number on you, because they are all very highly skilled in the art of flipping the script. They were supposed to be in your service, but then suddenly, what are you? Vashamitaha. What is this person? The jiva is Vashamitaha, and coming under their spell, having come helplessly under their spell. And then where does the jiva go? Yati shokam cha moham. There's only 2 places that one can go: sorrow and delusion. What is the difference? Not much difference in here. And you can flip them around also. So first delusion and then sorrow. ठीक है, वो भी ठीक है, because you can say, because of the deluded priorities and delusion with regard to the operation of the sense organs, etc., then moha comes first and then shoka comes later. Or you can say, then you can say shoka comes first, and then the priorities are further corroded as one glub 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 sinks into shoka, then moha follows. So what is the antidote? The Ishavasya Upanishad says, tatra ko mohakka shokah ekatvam anupashyatah. Ekatvam anupashyatah. For the one who is seeing oneness everywhere. What moha? What shoka? No moha, no shoka. So the antidote to this is Atma Jnanam and the Vedanta Drishti, the vision of Vedanta, that oneness, when one sees, when one understands, that the sense organs, sense objects, they are all just as though projections of the Atma, of Bhagavan, of I. And then there is, and no matter how much the sense organs may want, I can never be the Atma is never enslaved or afflicted by all this. And how does this start? As I told you, with a bag full of full stops. Bag full of stops. Yeah, what kind of stops? Full stops. And then why are they called full stops? Because deploying them, you gain access to the fullness of yourself. That's why it's called full stop. English samasa. A stop that leads you indirectly to the fullness of yourself. Full stop. Very nice. And so this way you'll never forget it, you see? Yeah. And so therefore, this is how, one grows. These are the sadhanas that one can do that help us to open up to Vedanta, that help us to understand this fully. And then one more Upanishad I want to bring in, which is the Kathopanishad. Famous mantra there. Paranchikhani vyatrinat swayambhuhu parak pashyati nacha antaratman kaschid dhiraha atmanam aikshat avritta chakshuhu amritatvam icchan. This is the Kathopanishad, very famous mantra, where the Jiva, in the Lord Yama, laments on behalf of all of us. He laments. This Bhagavan is bad. Why? Why is Bhagavan bad? Because the Bhagavan has destroyed us. Swayambhuhu Vyatranat has destroyed us, as it were. How? Because has kept us, kept us outwardly focused by putting the eyes outwardly facing, because we are only seeing things outside. And then what is the directive? Go within. How to go within when the ears are hearing all kinds of nice sounds, and when the nose is smelling the neighbor's pakodas frying? How to go within? Not possible. And parak pashyati. And even though it says antaratmanam, it should be antaratmanam na pashyati. Only sees outside, doesn't see anything within oneself. And what does it take? It takes one person of wisdom, kaschit dhiraha, who has desired the Atma. Who desired the Atma. How did he or she desire the Atma? Who desired the Atma? Antaratmanam aichat. How? Avritta chakshuhu. Cognitively, a metaphoric revolution of vision. It's fine that the eyes face outside, but you don't have to take in everything as a insurance for your well-being, that whatever you take in is going to give you some kind of a well-being. That is not there. It's never said that. That's never said. So you don't have to take everything that comes and say and depend on it for your well-being. Nowhere is it said that. Amritatvam icchan. So, what happens? Amritatvam icchan, desiring immortality. Yeah, it's not aikshat. Yeah, the dhira, the wise person, as it were, sees the Atma. Sees means understands. Sees the Atma means bees the Atma. One is the Atma, one understands. And so therefore, there is one person who can do that. It takes one person with some viveka, with some vairagya, to disengage from the activities of the sense organs as a key, as a ticket to one's happiness. And then what? That happy self is oneself alone. Oneself alone, being limitless, is happy, is already fine, is already in the what's its name, in the flow of that amritatvam. That amritatvam, immortality, limitlessness, is not centered on the objects, obviously, because all the objects being finite. So therefore what? It is centered on the subject. And that is what is the message of this. So therefore, in sleeping everybody is fine, but then in waking, why is one sad? This also, the last connection to one more Upanishad I will just say in closing. It is the Chandogya Upanishad, where Shvetaketu, in wanting this teaching again, says, how come? Shvetaketu doesn't say, the Sampradaya, gives the connection. How come everyone goes to sleep and then everyone reaches Paramatma and is happy? The Jnani also goes to sleep. The Ajnani also goes to sleep. And both are happy. They are one with Paramatma in sleep. But then when they come back, the Jnani continues to be happy and the Ajnani is immediately sad upon waking. How? This is why. Because upon waking, the Ajnani immediately comes under the spell. Vashamitaha came under the spell of the sense organs directly upon waking. And the Jnani did not. Thanks to the full stops and the knowledge of Purnata, the knowledge of fullness, the Jnani was able to avoid this pitfall. So therefore, tatra ko mohaha kashokaha ekatvam anupashyataha. That is what the thing is. So now we'll be on a little bit of a hiatus for this class, and because I'll be traveling and teaching in different places, and this class will meet again on the first Tuesday, I think, in March. Can somebody give me the date?
8th March, I think.
8th of March. Yes, we can meet on the 8th of March. We will do that. And then, Janani, if you are there, or Harinder, can you please share uh, that revised
Yes.
thing I sent you,
Yes.
the flyer for the retreat? The one I sent yesterday had some problems.
Mhm.
I had not listed everything. So this one is the current one. It will also be on the website soon, and
Mhm.
so you can just, it will be put in the chat pod, so you can download that. Om Purnamada
Purnamada
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnachate
Purnas
Purnasya
Purnamada Purnamevavashishyate.
Purnachate
Om
Om Shanti
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 Shanti.
Shanti.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.
धन्यवादः बहु बहु धन्यवादः
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.